What drives you? What inspires you? Let's ignite your why. Welcome back to Ignite Your Why podcast. I'm your host, Austin T. Gullett, and we're here to have genuine conversations with authentic people to help amplify their voice and figure out what ignites their why. Today's guest was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. He's an alumnus of St. X High School and is currently a direct support professional and is making a difference every day in his work. So let's give a warm welcome to my old friend, Michael Bailey. Michael, how are you doing today, man?
Doing great. It's a beautiful day. It's not too hot out. It feels pretty good out today.
After this week of heat, it's been pretty nice to have a little bit of like a breeze. It's not too hot. It feels pretty nice outside. So I agree with you on that one.
I can walk down the street without sweating. That felt pretty good.
I'm not gonna lie to you. I barely stepped foot outside today. Sundays are my chill days. So the only time I went outside was to let my dog out. Other than that, I've been pretty laid back today.
Okay.
So let's just hop straight into this, man. What is your story?
Yeah, so my name is Michael Bailey, born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. I have been involved with my church ever since I was a young child. That's something that, when I look at overall my entire life and what makes me me, the church and God has been the biggest, aspect. I come from a family where my grandfather, he was a preacher. I have three uncles who are pastors. I have cousins who are preachers, family members who have a church in the city. So when I look back and you ask me that question, the first thing that comes to mind is the church and the foundation of who I am. I grew up in the church, grew up singing in choirs, grew up, doing all the things I could in the church. And so I take a look back at who I was as a kid. And, I wasn't the average Joe. I wasn't the average guy. I was bullied a lot as a kid just because I was so different. But I was very, in tune with myself and in tune with God because of my family. When I was 13, I actually started preaching. That's sort of what really, formed me and who I am. From an age of 13, the first time I preached at a church, St. Stephen Baptist Church in Louisville. The youngest preacher to ever preach there, which is, it's a lot because it's the second largest church in the state of Kentucky. And my pastor trusted me with preaching in front of people. And there was 1,500, I think, that were there listening to me. And I was 13 years old. And I remember when I was a kid, I would always study the Word of God. I would always study it more than, I could have been. I always, read the Bible. That's just, who I am. I've always been one for being in front of people. I've seen a purpose. Somehow I'm able to talk to people and they listen. And I've realized that my voice actually does matter because I've seen people cry on my shoulder for me just telling them one thing and, reaching out to them. And then all of a sudden, they're crying. They're telling me that I helped change their life and all these things. So it's such a blessing when you're able to be a blessing. When I look back over all of my life and, the things that I've gone through, I started out, I lived with my grandmother, my mother, my sister, and my aunt in the house. So, it wasn't a lot of male figures around. And that's also what made me me. I had to, I didn't grow up in a place with toxic masculinity. I grew up in a place that was filled with love and kindness and filled with happiness, and joy. And that's what made, me in the sense of being able to experience the world in different ways than most guys don't do. But I will say that, growing up, when I look back, it's just family, God, and friends. I had friends, I'd play with in the neighborhood, but then I'd make sure they went to church themselves. So when I look back, I've done a lot of cool things in my life. I've always tried to be adventurous and, try something new. Just because I grew up a little, poorer in Louisville. Thankfully, we made it out, but from where we, once were. But, I played the tuba because why not? Played the trumpet. Then I started acting, and one day I moved to Los Angeles. I tell you, man, life is funny how it works. And it seems like, the most interesting part about it all, when you look back over your life, you're able to recognize the people that God has placed in your life in order for you to, elevate to the next step. That's the most interesting thing that I found for myself because I look back and I'm like, wow, that guy was a stepping stone. He put me here. You know, that's God.
It's crazy because you never know. Like, I feel like everyone plays a purpose in your life,
No
regardless
doubt.
of what that may look like. They're either there for a lifetime or they're there for a season, but they're
Exactly.
also in your life for a reason.
Without a
I
doubt.
kind of just kind of rhymed there, but
You did. Consciousness.
um, so it's interesting to me, and I think I've never really heard your full story, right?
Mhm.
And
Of
I think
course.
just seeing like who you were when I knew you in college to like who you are now, like you can see like the growth in you as an individual, and you can see the maturity in you as a individual, and it's super inspiring. And like I see the work you're doing every single day. But I'm curious for you because like for me it was a little bit different. Like I grew up and stayed in college like close to home.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that when you graduated and like went away for school, like was that your first true experience of being like away from home? And how did your time in college kind of help guide you into who you are today as well?
Yeah, man, I'm going to be honest with you. So I grew up very, I guess, coddled and very protected in a house where, I was loved and cared for, obviously, but it was very
Hmm.
much, I was in a shell that I didn't know how to necessarily escape. I was bullied in elementary school, bullied in middle school, struggled finding myself, struggled with depression, horrible thoughts that were in my head, all these horrible things that I went through. And then I go to high school, and that's where I started to really flourish. I went to an all guys high school, of course. And so when I got to college, it was the first time that I was away from home. And it was the first time that I was able to just sort of be me without somebody necessarily looking over my shoulder each second type of deal.
Yeah.
Um, College, it was rough for me at the beginning there. I I I don't really know. I think I think some mistakes were made. That's life, of course. Um,
Hmm.
but overall, I was happy there, of course. And yeah, looking back at college days, I I took that time. That's when I started getting into acting more. Acting is the main thing that I love to do. That's my main passion in life. One of my main ones. I have a few. That's like I want to do that someday.
Yeah.
Forever. That's why I filmed a Lifetime movie my freshman year of college, and then I was talking to the actors on set during the Lifetime movie, and they were like, "Michael, you need to move to Los Angeles while you're young. Do it now." They were talking about the fact that they left college just to pursue it, while they're young. So I literally left school. I left the school and packed my bags and I moved to Atlanta first, actually. And then I
Hmm.
moved to Los Angeles. But I tell you what, I did learn a lot of lessons from NKU that, a lot of good things. I was involved with, the government, the student government, and all those things. It's sort of, when I look back at that, it's like, I'm not saying I was a different person, but I was very, it's like, that first time when you have freedom,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
time when you're able to just be somebody new, coming from a school where no one really went to NKU from my high school, so I'm in this entirely new area, this new place, and I was able to sort of become a different version of myself that I had ever been. Um, yeah,
It's kind of like that fresh start and that new beginning, but
without a doubt,
it comes with a lot of pressure. I feel
it
like,
does. It does.
and I feel college is that time frame where you're technically an adult, but you're still young. That you don't really have like the knowledge you necessarily need to be 100% like where you need to be in life, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's the
100%.
part of growth. And
Yeah.
I love how like I'm I'm not gonna preach like I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but I love how you dropped out and pursued your dream, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a lot of people push this like stigma that like college, 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 but in reality, like there are people out here who have no degree and are super successful. And then
Without
there
a
are
doubt.
people who have their degrees and are super successful. But
Yes.
what truly matters is doing what's best for ourselves, right?
Without a doubt.
I
Yes.
tell people all the time, no matter what decision you make, there are people that are going to love it. There are people that are going to hate it. But
Yep.
the one thing that you need to be doing is doing what's best for you and you
Yeah.
only. And only
Yeah.
you know that.
I'll tell you, man, it was hard at first. My mother was not for it. She hated it
Hmm.
completely. My family was like, "You're going to move to Los Angeles. You're going to do what?" But I tell you what, and this is an example of what you're talking about. And I'm a big fan of stepping out on faith. Put that one step, God's going to fill the next step for you. So, funny story here. So, my mother was against it, but she has a friend. Her name is Betty Bennett. She's a screenwriter, and basically, my mother was talking to her, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm going to help Michael along his way." Boom. That's like the first thing that was like, okay, you know, something could be here. My mother met a woman on the plane. She was on a plane in the process of
Hmm.
me telling her all this stuff. She flies often. She's talking to a woman next to her on the plane. This woman's like, "Yeah, I have a son." My mom's like, "Yeah, I have a son too. He's going to move to Los Angeles, but I'm not for it." This woman works in the industry and became a good friend of mine. But my mother met her on a plane. So my mom, at that moment, she's like, maybe it could be okay. But she met a random woman on a plane. And because of that, my mom was okay with it. And she was like, okay, maybe he could do this after talking to this random person. So it's just so funny looking at how that all played out in that regard. Because trust me, man, it is so
Yeah.
hard. I did not want to drop out at all. I didn't want to do it. But once again, the
Hmm.
experiences that I had in the 5 years that I lived in Los Angeles, the movies, the commercials, TV shows, all the stuff that I did, once again, making me who I am. I can always go back and finish my degree. I'm looking at it right now. I don't have too much left, thankfully. So that's where I'm at this very moment. But
I was just about to say that. I was
yeah, I
like,
do
even though you
not,
dropped out, you can still go back and finish.
exactly,
Like
I do
college
not
is,
regret.
yeah, college is
But
always going to be there.
I will say, for people, I did have some friends who also dropped out after me somehow, and a few people moved to Los Angeles after me. And some people are still out there pursuing their dreams, and they said it was because of me. And I'm like, dude, that's great. I'm glad that I inspired you. Have a backup plan. Have something that you can do. That's gonna, because you don't want to. You always have to
Hmm.
be smart. I realized how smart you have to be. When you're doing these big life changes, you can't just go after it and then
You got to have
have
all
to
your
regret
ducks
it.
in a row. All
Yeah,
your ducks have to be in a row. And
ducks
it's kind
have to
of,
be in a row.
I tell my athletes all the time, it's like you sit here and you say you want to play college soccer and you want to do X, Y, and Z, but you have one injury and your career is over. What's your backup plan? Right?
Exactly.
Having a backup plan doesn't mean you're not going to succeed. It just means you're prepared for when you fail.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Failure's
And
not a bad thing either.
at all, failure teaches life lessons. It teaches you how to be essentially humble. It humbles yourself and makes you realize, like, okay, let's take a step back and really digest what's happening here. And it
Without a doubt.
allows the growth to happen.
Mhm.
Earlier, you mentioned acting was one of your passions, and it kind of makes me want to go into this next segment here. So, what is it that truly inspires you? But more importantly, what ignites your why?
That is my why. The thing that ignites my why the most in this life is being able to put a smile on people's face and being able to affect change in someone's life, whether that's small, whether that's big. That is what really drives me as a person. I try to, if there's somebody who needs help, I'm going to help them. Now, I
Hmm.
say that that's my main mission in this life is to just be a kind person and help people. But there is it's a broad spectrum and things you can do in order to do that. Acting is one of those things. I see the smile on people's faces when I'm acting in front of them, or I'm doing a comedy and I see their reactions. Or we're sitting in a room and we just, we watch the scene and I'm sitting with the director and he's like, "Wow, people are going to love that." I'm like, that's what it's about. Igniting my why, it really starts with my mother though. She is my inspiration. She she's written two books and she's working on her third right now actually. Very very good books that are about helping people and bettering their lives and surrounded around Christ, of course. That's her main umbrella. But she's my main support system. My main why is being able to see the things that she's done. Her being able to raise me and my sister the way that she did, and my sister, she's doing amazing, but it's because of my mother. My why
Hmm.
is my family. My why is my friends. My why are the people that I meet. I'm not. My why is humanity. Humanity. That's broad. But my why is people. I just love people, and I try to be nice to everyone I meet. I don't really have any enemies. I don't make any problems. My why is being able to walk down the street, look at somebody in the face, smile at them,
Yep.
give them a head nod, or even like a small compliment. I try to compliment people and just let them know that it's going to be okay. That's where it's like we're all in this thing together. So why not try to help out your fellow brother, your fellow sister, show them that things will be okay. There are good people out there, you know. I one thing specifically, people are always talking about, you know, helping the homeless and giving money to people, and I'm like, dude, I don't care what that person does with my $2. I saw that person smile. I know that that $2 that I had in my pocket means a big difference, you know, to them than it will to me. I can't. That's one thing that bothers me. Some
Yeah.
people say, "Oh, they're gonna do this." I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like, I'd rather see somebody happy than think about what they're gonna do with this $1, $2 I gave them. Igniting my why. It's family. It's friends.
Yeah.
It's Christ centered. It's being able to wake up in the morning happy and knowing that I was able to wake up and take another breath, you know, and start a new day. It's not everyone wakes up every morning. So being able to have
It's always a blessing. I
it's a
tell people
big
that all the
blessing.
time. Every
Being
time you
able
wake
to
up in the morning is a
yeah,
blessing.
without a doubt.
And
It's
I
a
think it's just
blessing.
amazing just hearing you talk, man, because you have been this same person since 2016, 2017 when I met you. And it's
Yes.
just inspiring because you never like changed who you are. You've always stayed true to I'm Michael Bailey. This is Michael Bailey. This is who I am. This is what I do. And it is infectious. Like you have this personality and it feeds off and you just give good energy. And I always enjoyed my time like hanging out with you. Like there was never a
Agree.
dull moment.
Yeah,
And
I
I think
agree.
it's just truly amazing, like just the growth that I've seen in you and the things that you're doing. And I kind of want to get into that because we talked earlier how you I'm blanking on like the title now. So
Yeah,
you
direct
are
support
a
professional.
direct support professional. I've
Yeah.
seen it all over social media. I follow your story with him and it's truly inspiring. But for the people that don't know exactly what that is or what you do, could you give us a little bit of insight on that
Yeah.
and just tell us
Um,
all about it?
Of course. So, direct support professional. It's what used to be called a caretaker. Essentially, uh, direct support. I'm supporting him in the things that he does. So, let me just start over. The guy that I take care of, his name's Grant, and he is nonverbal. He is on the spectrum, and he is 25 years old, same age as me, actually. And Grant, he doesn't speak at all. He doesn't speak. He has an iPad, but he doesn't really use it. He barely
Hmm.
likes to use it, unless if he wants ice cream. Then he'll type ice cream, and then he'll tell me that, or a cookie, or a muffin. That's what he tells me all the time. But so my role in his life, it's basically to. I tell you what, I've been doing this for almost a year now,
Hmm.
and it's been ups and downs. But overall, I've noticed a good change in his life. His mother talks about it often with me, and I sometimes I feel like, oh, I could be doing something else. Why am I doing this? But then his mother's like, no, Michael, you're helping us out. You're helping him out. You're helping him to grow. So we do things. It's essentially basically getting him ready for if he ever had to live alone. I get him out into
Hmm.
social aspects. We go to the gym. I take him to games. We go to soccer games all the time. Went to one last night, which was fun. We go for walks. We go for swims. We do a bunch of different things. And it's basically just for him to get out, to be in the community, to be with friends of mine, people that he can be around, and, you know, feel normal. So he's not coddled up inside all day, just on a computer looking at his screen. It's a lot of work
I
because
can imagine.
I, I do have to like help him in the bathroom and make sure that, you know, certain things are done, pull up his pants, you know, all those things, brush his teeth,
Hmm.
put clothes on him. It's a lot of work. However, we have like the best relationship, and he doesn't even speak to me. I don't want to cry about it, but it's the sweetest thing. I have a little
It's
cousin.
beautiful.
I have a little
It's
cousin
beautiful.
who,
I'm telling you.
thank you.
You
I
can
have a
see
little,
it. That's the thing is you can see your relationship
yeah,
through social media, and it is like the most beautiful thing. And I applaud you because the work you're doing is truly amazing, and you are making a difference in his life, whether you recognize that or don't see it yourself. Sometimes, like the work you're doing is valued and it is important, and it takes special people. Especially, it takes a lot of patience, and I think
yes,
that's the biggest thing. Is patience is key in a lot of things that we do,
yeah,
and I literally like could like rave about this all day because the work you're doing is truly amazing. And I just love seeing your
thank you.
stories. I love seeing your runs and the time at the gym and the soccer games you go to. It's truly inspiring, honestly. And
Thanks,
I
man.
give it all to you, man.
I tell you what, I have a little cousin who has Down syndrome, and we've always been close. So once again, looking
Hmm.
back over life and how things happen and prepare you for what you're going to do, that's working with my little cousin and hanging out with him just taught me how to be patient, how to be kind, how to have respect for people, specifically Grant, who can't he doesn't talk at all. He can't tell me if he's hurting, he can't tell me if he's bleeding, he can't tell me. So I have to be very in tune to him.
Hmm.
I look at his face and I can tell something's off, something's good in the simplest moments because all he has is his facial reactions. And a lot of the time, his face is just, that's just who he is. So when he's smiling, the guy's really happy, but he's always happy. It's just, I think sometimes he might get annoyed by my music choice. I drive, he drives, I drive him around in my car every day, of course. And sometimes I can't always listen to the Sesame Street and Elmo. I play Sesame Street, Elmo, Barney. You know, I can't tell you the amount of times I've heard the Barney theme song in the past few months. Elmo, we listen to it all the time because that's what makes him happy. And
Yeah.
not all the time I can listen to that. Sometimes I have to put on my Kenny Chesney or my Tupac, and I'm like, I'm sorry, Grant, I just can't do it right now. I got to change it up. Sunny
What
days,
a
Sesame
what a
Street right
range of
now.
music for you.
Oh man,
You
5
went
days a
from
week.
Kenny Chesney to Tupac. Like those are completely opposites.
Those are my. That's what. That's my music taste, and
I
this
can
is Sesame
just
Street. So,
yeah, I can just see your playlist now. Like just
oh,
you have this country song and then it's straight hood.
oh
Like
man. Well, I make country music now, so that's like my main thing. I go to a lot of inspiration when it comes to country
mhm.
music. Got my guitar over here actually, but that's my main thing. But Grant doesn't really like country music, so I change that up. But I sit in the car for 40 minutes, and he grabs my phone, Sesame Street, and I'm like, oh Grant, we're gonna do it again. I'm like, whatever, if you're happy. And then he has his stimming. You can tell he's happy. He starts rocking back and forth, and I'm like, all right, Sesame Street it is, buddy.
That's
But in
hilarious.
that job specifically, uh, people there are a lot of people who do this job, and I know that sometimes uh, people who are getting help have behavioral issues.
Hmm.
Grant doesn't in this regard. Now, I did work with someone in Los Angeles when I lived there when I sort of started doing this job, and they did have behavioral issues, and there wasn't, I did as much as I could. I am trained in this, of course, but it's hard. I'm blessed right now with Grant because he is so kind. He's like one of the most kind human beings I'll ever meet. And it's so funny. His mother, he loves his candy, he loves his cookies. His mom told me that before I was around, he never shared anything with anyone. So let's
Huh.
say we go to the Home Depot. We go to the Home Depot often because we get like water jugs there and refill them.
Hmm.
And he gets a Milky Way bar. He gives me half. His mom heard that and she's like, "Oh my God, Michael, he has never shared with anyone." And I'm like, "Wow, that's a big deal to me. I mean, if I'm that special to him, that's a blessing." He has a twin brother. His name's Gregory. Gregory's awesome. Gregory and I went to high school together, and
Hmm.
Gregory, he's like I said, they're twin brothers, but Gregory talks. Uh, when those two are together, it's a funny time. Let's just say that it's a good time indeed. But, yeah,
Truly, truly amazing, dude. Honestly.
thank you.
But I do.
I moved back here from Los Angeles last year in July, and
Mhm.
I thought about going back out there for acting. Thought about staying here, getting settled. I'm still figuring it out as I go. Um, but one day I was talking. No, it was they had a birthday party, and I know the family for a while. Like in high school, I would go over their house occasionally. They took me to my first Oaks. They actually took me to my first Derby this year too. Very nice family, very good people. And I was talking with his mom, and she's like, "Yeah, he doesn't have anybody there right now. He just sits on his iPad all day." And we got to talking, and I was like, "Well, I've done this before, And she's like, "Wow,
Mhm.
Michael, that would be such a blessing if you could actually, come and help us out." And so it was just a trial and error of me going over there, seeing what it would be like, until finally me and Grant just clicked, not quit. We clicked right away. We just started, you could tell that the repertoire between us was just going to be on point. We started out just with some bike rides. We would go to Panera and just sit there, and yeah, I that's the way it happened. And now I'm trying to help him somehow talk. He mumbles a lot. He
Hmm.
says one thing every day: bye bye, bye bye. That's his way of saying bye bye. The only thing he ever says pretty much is bye bye, or he'll make noise like it's like ah. He'll say things out loud when he's stimming, but every day he's like bye bye, bye bye, and it's the sweetest thing. But I'm trying to teach him. We go over our ABCs, and he says bleh. So I'm trying to teach him if I can get him to talk. I, that'd be that'd be a blessing. That'd be amazing. So I'm working on that right now, specifically with him. That
That
and
it's pretty
also
dope, honestly.
getting him to dress himself is something that's hard to do because he'll put his underwear on
Hmm.
backwards, his sock will be on backwards, shoes will be on the wrong feet. So I'm trying to get him to be able to do it all by himself. Uh, but yeah, man, I grew up. When I was younger, I taught Sunday school, and we had a few people in our class, our Sunday school class every week who were on the spectrum, and I I noticed how I was able to affect change in their life by just talking to them like a normal person, whereas other
Hmm.
people in the class they didn't want to say anything to them, and so I didn't single them out. I just made sure they were involved and not sitting by themselves to the side. And because of that, once again looking back, you know, because of that, I'm able to do this. Um, it's I don't know what the future is going to hold. I do have some ideas and some businesses that I would like to start specifically for people that are on the spectrum and have special needs. And so it's like something's happening here, in my life to where
Yeah,
I'm actually able to make a change. So yeah,
I think the
go
thing
ahead.
is just to be patient.
Yeah,
You know,
that's the biggest thing. That's life, man.
is is just be patient because like you'll figure it out. Like you
Yep.
said, like I feel like you're used to change.
Yes.
You're kind of you can adapt to change very well with just like moving to Los Angeles, starting over and coming back and starting over again. So it definitely does make sense. And I think don't lose sight on those
Of course.
businesses that you might think of. Like really plan them out, really talk it through with people because what you're doing is amazing work. And I think one thing you said really stood out to me is you treated him like a normal person. You treat people with disabilities like normal people. And I think that's
Mhm.
something a lot of people are kind of like afraid to do. It's like
Yep.
they feel like they need special treatment. But in reality, a lot of times they just want to be seen as one. Like
Yep.
as like you're I'm like you, like you're like me, and like we're the same kind of people. So I think it's truly amazing that the work you're doing, it's valuable, it's needed. So don't stop, right? God put you on this planet for a reason and you have a purpose. And I feel like you're living in that purpose right now. So continue to do what you're doing and continue to change the world one person at a time because that's exactly what you're doing. And it's inspiring. I'm telling you, like just keep being you and don't change.
Thank, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Of course. One of my favorite topics is mental health, and it kind of makes me
Yes.
want to lean into this next segment here. And me, I'm a huge mental health advocate. I will vouch for it, talk about it any chance I get. So, how have you been taking care of yourself mentally?
Ah, man, I tell you what, it's been rough, and this is like a long journey of 25 years of figuring out
Hmm.
how I'm able to escape depression, escape my anxiety, and I've never had to take pills or anything like that for it. I thankfully or anything like that. Dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. Music is my number one.
Hmm.
Number two, it's just being able to talk to cool people. I go out, sit at a coffee, sit at Starbucks, meet people. What I what I do to protect my mental health, man, I just take time. I'm usually busy. I was working two jobs. I was bartending and working with grants, so I'd do like 11, 13-hour days. And I noticed that it was really bad for my mental health and my sleep schedule and everything. It was messing with my emotional health, my physical health, my overall well being. So I had to stop doing that. Um, Music, Kenny Chesney. If we're being honest here, I that's like my number one. For some reason, I love that guy's music. Music is a great way to just numb your mind with happiness and
Yeah.
escape to a different place. That family, um, reaching out to those that I know that love me, friends and family, um, having that support, therapist. have a therapist who I talk to about things. Big advocate for therapy. Big, big on that.
Love
Because I
therapy.
have a lot to talk
Therapy.
about with this person, and she has always been there for me, and it's such a blessing because after stuff that has happened to me, car accidents, I call her up.
Mhm.
She's the first person I talk to, and then my mom. So,
And I think that's
uh,
the beauty in therapy is like you get to talk to a complete stranger that won't judge you for the
yeah,
things you're telling you, and they're there to genuinely listen.
uh-huh.
And I think it's so funny that you like Kenny Chesney because it's like one of my mom's favorite artists.
Really? Oh, that's great. Yeah,
She's
man, I
like
don't know why. His
she
music
loves
just
him.
soothes my brain. Yeah. But yeah, man, I tell you what, it's been a long journey for my mental health. There have been times where it struggled really bad.
Hmm.
But I found that it's just a matter of being able to somehow escape and take a second and breathe, relax for a second, chill out. Don't even need music all the time. The biggest thing for me is just not speeding ahead. I have ADHD, so oftentimes I get on top of myself and I'm just all over the place, man, all over.
Yeah.
So sometimes I just have to take a second, breathe, breathe out, and then I have to realize, wait, why am I so upset? What is wrong? I'm alive. I've gone
That
through
is
this
so
and that,
crazy to me.
and I'm still
Literally,
here.
you're speaking, and the last person I had on this podcast, her name was Tisha Payne. She literally said almost the exact same thing, where
Yeah,
she's just like, meditation is what helps me, where I just take a deep breath and I just let it all sink in. And it's really hard. I feel like I can relate in a sense because I'm always go, 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 go. That it's hard to take a step back and really focus on what truly matters the most, and that's
yeah,
ourselves, right?
without a doubt. I was taught.
especially
I
especially
was
as a
taught.
people person.
Sorry.
No, you're good, you're good. Like,
Yeah,
we're people. Like, we love helping people, we love making people happy and doing things for other people, that we often get lost, that we don't focus on who matters the most at times, and
yeah,
that's ourselves. So
yeah.
I just can relate to you in that sense. So
No, 100%.
I feel it 100%.
There are different ways and things that I do that help my mental health.
Like, one question,
Yeah.
what made you want to go into this type of work? Was it just like a switch where you're like, oh, this is it? Or did something happen that made you like want to do that work?
You rub your shoulders and you just hold yourself. And you do that for 30 seconds, and all of a sudden your heartbeat's going to go down. You're going to start, you're going to start breathing right, and you're going to be okay. It's sort of a way to remind yourself you're going to be okay. So I do that often. There's another way. So if you grab the tips of your finger while you're breathing, so let's say you count to 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, but you're holding on. You're not squeezing hard, but you're holding on softly, and you do that with each finger. You're going to notice that all of a sudden things are going to get a lot calmer, a lot cooler, and you're going to be very cool. I've had a few anxiety attacks throughout my life, and I've always been able to go back to grab those fingernails. And once you do it for the first time, you'll be like, whoa. But I think it also has to be, a lot of people move really fast, but if you're able to
Hmm.
just take that second for yourself, it's going to be so good for you. That's just a little trick. I don't know if you've ever done that one, but just
I haven't heard
hold
of
on to
either of
those
those.
hold on to those. You literally just take a second, hold on to those fingertips, breathe in, squeeze in while you breathe out, and then each
That's
finger is,
literally
yeah,
insane because I'm just thinking of everything that's going on in my life right now. Where I'm just like, I'm definitely gonna try it, and I
man.
will message you and let you
I'll
know if
tell
it
you, please
works.
do, please do. It's something. It's something. It's weird.
Yeah, because
People might see it as weird, but I
I
think,
probably would only do it like if I was like alone. I'm not gonna lie
of
to
course,
you.
no, I can't. I can't blame you there. But I mean, even if let's say you're standing in a crowd,
Yeah,
nobody's going to be looking at your hands if you have them on, below you. If you
that's
hide it,
true. That's true.
unless if you're like, that's different. But once again, who cares what anybody thinks? So
That
I
is
say
true.
I say that because Grant, he plays with his hands all the time. He's always fidgeting, and I'm like, bro, do your thing. I don't care what these people think or the way they're looking at you. You do your thing, man. I'm just gonna do it with you. So he starts jumping up and down. We're at the gym. He starts jumping up and down. He waves his hand. I look around. People are looking at him. And I'm like, you know what? Do it. I'm gonna join you. So I start jumping up and down with him. I'm like,
See,
bro,
you
if
were
you're
just a
happy, you do your thing. You do your thing. I
you're
don't
just
care
a
what these
special
people think.
person.
Bro
That's
picks his
one thing I
nose.
struggle
All right,
with.
bro.
Yeah,
Here's some hand sanitizer.
you
You
pick your
pick
nose
that
too.
nose. Oh, hey man, I mean, we're like brothers. He's sitting there in the passenger seat picking his nose. I'm like, I wonder. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
That's hilarious.
nah. Yeah,
No, that's literally. I'm going to try those
yeah.
techniques because just
Also,
with I
even
just
like
need it.
a small walking. I'm
Oh,
very
that's
active and physical as well, and that's one big thing. Getting out in
mhm,
nature, man. That's like my one of my biggest. I used to go for when I lived in Los Angeles. I went to this place called Runyon Canyon, and every morning I would wake up and literally get out of bed and say, "Good morning, world." I'm not kidding. That's what I would do. I had to put myself in that mindset. It was going to be a good day. If I had an audition, I had to get myself ready. So I'd
mhm.
go. I'd get a cup of coffee from this place called Javista Organic Coffee Bar, and then I'd run to the top of this mountain and where I could see the entire of Los Angeles. And I'd just sit on top of the mountain in nature, music maybe, sometimes no music, so I can hear what's all around me. And I just sit there at the top and breathe after hiking. Really,
That's
like
insane.
it is,
It sounds
dude.
it
Here's the
sounds
thing, man.
peaceful.
Here's the thing that I've realized, and I've realized this through trial and error, studying, reading people, watching motivational videos. It's sort of like if you want to be successful in life, you sort of have to reset your mind in a way.
Hmm.
Why is this not worked out? Okay, well, what am I going to do differently? What do I have to do? Sometimes you have to rewrite the entire script. And that's the beautiful thing that I've realized about life, and especially with mental health. You got to do what's best for you. You have to do what's going to, help you the most. Dude, I was drowning when I was in college. I was not there. I was not 100% me. Had a horrible relationship that I should not have been in that was so toxic and horrible to me. She cheated on me, all these horrible things. And
Right.
so I realized at that moment, I'm like, I have to protect my mental health. I have to do what I love to do, and that's acting. And that's like, what made me move out there, dude. I live 2,000 miles away with no family, nothing like that for my mental health. So I'm a big mental health advocate too. I'm all about, doing what's best for you, man. That's what really guides me. Yeah.
I
Also,
mean,
I
all
used to
to it.
run. Running's a good thing too. I used to run cross
See,
country.
I used to
Hey,
run
I know you
all the
did. I knew
time.
that. I knew that. Yeah. Pimped on the used to. Eh? Hey, I tore my MCL this year, so I'm just now slowly getting back into it.
Jeez.
But
No, I'm telling you, I was an avid runner.
oh no, I
Like,
remember. I remember.
would run almost every single day in high school, and then like I continued it in college, and then literally I feel like I had like a downward spiral since like sophomore year of college because I
Yeah.
had surgery on my ankle, which put me out for like 6 months. And then trying to get back to like running every day after you just had ankle surgery is not ideal. Then I finally got to a place where I was like, oh yeah, like I can do this again. I was going to run a marathon, half marathon, not a full marathon, a half marathon in 2020. It was going to be like my first half marathon. I was prepared, and then COVID canceled it. So
Dude, tell me why COVID, literally, I would probably be in Los Angeles still acting if it wasn't for COVID. I legit had just signed with an agency. Like,
mhm.
it was going to be the best year ever. I was on sets, I was doing movies, and then COVID hit. It was the worst time, dude. Like, you talk about a bad mental health time. That was COVID, coronavirus.
COVID,
That was a crazy year, man.
I hated COVID was like a
Dude,
blessing for me though. I
yeah,
like for real. It taught COVID actually taught me how to slow down.
yeah, yeah.
Because I
You
was
had to.
always go, go, go. Like literally before COVID happened, I was a grad student. I was working part time. I had a part time internship, and I was just constantly doing something every single day of my life. And I just never had time to just relax.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
important.
taught me a lot. And I think it's a blessing in disguise, but everything happens for a reason. And
Yeah.
I think you just got to roll with the punches that are thrown at you and keep
Yeah, man.
going.
Without a doubt. I lost two people close to me in 2020. It was a lot of despair and sadness that year. But then I moved back here for a second for like a few months during
Mhm.
COVID. And then something, I don't know what it was. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the gym. I was like, I need to get out of the house. I need to get my stuff together. I tried selling life insurance. Nope, not for me. I tried it though. I was like, nope, that's not my go to. That's not my deal. I'll leave that up to the insurance guys. That's not for me. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I gotta get up. Started going to work out. Started running, and I'm like, hey, mom, I'm gonna move back to Los Angeles. She's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, sorry, I'm out of here. Peace.
Peace.
Then I went back, and it was great. It was better than it was before. and I was scared, didn't know what it was going to be like. The industry changed completely because of
Oh,
COVID.
100%.
Um, but here we
But I
are.
feel like you needed that mental reset. And that's the thing
Yes,
is like,
that's
we always
important.
need to just
Mental reset. Yeah.
reset all the
I tell you,
time.
it's just so funny because I talk to people and people look at me like I'm crazy when I'm like, yeah, man, sometimes you just got to take a second and relax. People don't
Hmm.
realize you don't have to be going all the time, man. You got to take some time for yourself. You have to, even if it's like 5 minutes, like just any time.
Hmm.
It's hard to speak on every single person, of course, in the world. We all have our own different stories and stuff. You can take 3 minutes to yourself to just figure out something you love to do that's going to help you, help your heart, help your life, help the people around you. That's not drugs or alcohol or something that's going to lead you to a pit of
Yeah.
despair. You know, but
I think the hardest thing is consistency though, is
yeah,
I can
that's
start something, but I think for me, just the consistency aspect is I try to start going to the gym again. And literally, like, I keep making excuses. And I think that's my thing is just like I'm being an athletic director right now, on top of coaching soccer, on top of like working and doing a podcast. Like, it's a lot for one person. So that's why I said like Sundays are my like do nothing days. I just
yeah,
record on Sundays. It's
yeah,
like the one thing that brings me joy and happiness. So I dedicate Sundays to recording days, and I go to church or I watch church online depending on my mood. But
I
so I
watched
just
online today. I didn't go. I woke
yeah,
up at
I
7
watched
o'clock.
online this morning too. I've been watching online a lot recently just because life has been so hectic that it's easier for me to just set an alarm at like 9:15 and wake up for a 9:30 service than to wake up at like 8 a.m.
Yep,
after a long night. So
definitely.
I do get it, but I just wanted to say thank you, first of
Yeah,
all, for taking the time out of your schedule to hop on the podcast and catch up. It's been a great time talking to you. I feel we haven't talked in like 5 years. I feel like,
insane, insane,
but you've
insane.
been doing amazing work, so I
Thank
do
you. You too.
appreciate it.
You too. You
Thank
always
you.
have. You always have. You remind me of like you're always affecting people's lives, and I love that. And I've always seen that in the people that you look after, the kids that I always see. I love it. Like it brings me so much
Thank you.
joy knowing who you are as a person. And seeing those guys, I'm like, dude, I know that he's helping their lives. And you might not even realize, the effect that you have on these guys' lives, but I see it and I love it. You ever
Thank
seen
you.
Ted Lasso? I feel like
Hmm.
you're like him. You're like that coach. You're a motivational. You're not a get over here or I'm gonna cut you. You're constantly taking.
That's literally how I am, because growing up I always had that coach where they just constantly yelled at me all the time.
Yeah,
And I'm the kind of coach where I'm not gonna say I don't yell, right?
of
Like
course you have to.
there are
Of
times when
course,
you have to, but
yes,
I think it's the approach I take. Where
yeah,
is if you make a mistake, I might say, hey Johnny, like you had the right idea, but maybe next time try doing it this way,
exactly.
instead
That's
of like
beautiful.
you did this wrong and X, Y, and Z. Where it's like I want you to understand that like I see your effort, I see you're trying, but there's a better way to do this, and I'm going to help get you to that point. Because when you are constantly putting a player down, they're not going to be able to build that confidence and have that confidence and belief in themselves. So
Exactly.
it's my mindset about it. It's the approach, right? And I feel like
Yep.
for every
That's it.
negative comment I have to come back with at least 3 or 4 or 5 more positives to outweigh that one negative.
I
So I
love that
try,
so much.
I try not to be a negative person, because I knew how it took a toll on me and my mental health and how it's shaped me as an adult. So I try to bring it around and
Hey, I love
help
it,
the
man.
next generation.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. That's the best way
It's
to do
like,
it, in my opinion. I think
honestly,
learning from from the things that you've gone through and being able to help somebody else, it's the most beautiful thing about this life. We're all in it together. Like, why not take I hate when people don't, share their gifts based off of the
mhm.
things that they went through. Like, I love hearing that because I try to do that myself. I try to help people when I can. When I taught Sunday school, even these boys, I was 18 at the time. These boys were like 15, 16. And I'm like, you guys are 2 years younger than me, but you're still
Yeah.
listening to me and listening to what I
And
say.
that's the thing
Um,
is I feel like we all have a purpose in life, and we all have an
yep.
opportunity to share our story. Because if I tell people all the time, it's why I have this podcast. It's like you have a story, so why not share it? Because you never know who you're going to touch or who you're going to inspire. Because
No
if we
doubt.
touch at least one person, then we did our job. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Because you never know. who can relate to you or who's experienced something very similar to you, and it just hits home for them. And it
Yeah.
just can be so inspiring to hear someone go through something very similar to you and see how they made it out, because there is light at the end of the tunnel and not everyone can see that light. So just by sharing your story, you could be that light for them. And I think that's the whole purpose of this, is just being
Dude,
able to inspire and
I've
make a
been
difference.
I've been hit by 5 cars. I was blind once. I have a autoimmune disease. These are things that you never would have known about me. Like, I don't carry
Hmm.
that well, but I've noticed whenever I'm talking to someone, I'm like, dude, I was healed. I I legit got rammed by a car, and like I didn't know what, like the lights were out. I just, next thing I woke up, I was in the hospital type of deal. I like look back at that and I talk to people and they're like, "How'd you make it through?" I was like, "Dude, I knew somebody who got in a car accident and they're living. Like I couldn't just give up.
Yeah.
I had to do the physical therapy. I had to go through the stuff. Like they said, made it up on the other side.
You know,
But
what doesn't kill you
you're
makes you
amazing, man.
stronger.
What
Thank
doesn't
you.
kill you makes you stronger. That is the
I
saying.
appreciate it. And
Yeah,
I appreciate you
yeah,
again for taking the time out.
of
If
course.
anyone wants to continue having a conversation with you about anything that we talked about today, what would be the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can come. You can message me on Instagram. It's a public profile. It's at Young Bailey, YOUNG BAILEY. I respond to that usually all the time. Also, email. It's Michael13Bailey@gmail.com. I use my email often for business and whatnot. Michael, MICHAEL 13BAILEY @gmail.com. If you ever need somebody to talk to, I'm here about anything. Please reach out. I don't mind at all. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. Once again, we're all in this together. So those are the two best ways to reach out to me. Uh,
Uh, we're all in this together, like High School Musical.
all in this together. Oh no! Oh no! Oh, sorry. I gotta calm down. My favorite movie.
Same, but I do appreciate you, man. And I want to thank everyone for listening in. And if you want to reach out to Michael, I'm going to put all of his description, all of his description. I'm going to put all of Michael's information in the description below. If you all happen to reach out to him, please make sure you notate on how you found him. It'll be greatly appreciated. Again, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you give us a follow on all social media platforms. You can find us at Ignyte Your Why. That's INGYTE, not with an I. We're on every platform: TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you name it, we're there. So make sure you give us a follow. Again, thank you all for listening in. And always remember, find your purpose, ignite your why, and I'll holler at you later. Peace.